All right. Howdy, everybody. Welcome to this encore presentation of episode 4 of the Cascade Effect entitled Trust. Little different tonight. I don't have my normal camera. I don't have my normal setup. I'm actually live with the team. We're going to be doing a Q&A session just after the episode. So stick around till after the episode and we'll answer a bunch of questions. We've got some calls to action for you, ways you can help us. Ways we can, hopefully get justice for Mike. Stick around till after the show and we'll answer all your questions then. Something else I needed to say. Yeah, if the audio and video of the Q&A session isn't perfect, sorry, apologies. It's just is what it is tonight. So, thank you all so much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. And without further ado, let's get to the, well, give me 1 second. Of course, I forgot. Give me 1 second, everybody. Forgot to put in a specific layout that I need. Here we go. All right. So without further ado, Season 1, Episode 4 of the Cascade Effect, entitled Trust. Your dad had a dog while he was living on the property.
Yes, Priscilla.
Can you tell me what happened with that dog after he was killed?
So they had their investigation period. I think it was like 3 or 4 days, something like that, before we could go back on the property. And my brother and I went back on the property, started getting my dad's things together and storing them in a safe location until we could get a storage unit and get all of my siblings up here from Tennessee to go through it together, and he was a minimalist, so there wasn't a lot of stuff. But we were outside smoking a cigarette and we heard a whine, and my brother, Arliss, was like, well, did you hear that? And no, what do you, and he's like, it's coming from this way. And I was like, okay. Should I grab my gun? And he's no, let's just go check it out. It's like, all right. So we went over there, and the Priscilla was sitting in a kennel, not like a small kennel, but like maybe 5 foot by 5 foot kennel. Yeah. And she's sitting in there. She's just super skinny, hair looking ratty, and there was water that was frozen. There was no food, and we got her out and got her some food and water and everything. But I just could not believe that that dog had sat out there for 4 days with no care. I was very upset, I guess, and I just really wish I would have thought to take pictures before I got her out, but my first instinct was just to, open the cage and get her out, get her some food. And after we got her settled in and eaten something, that's when my wife was like, you should have taken a picture and got a timestamp. And I was like, oh, yeah, I should have.
I've got some secrets that I gotta keep. Yeah, there's emotions swirling underneath. It doesn't seem daylight or feel the same. I've got a question burning through my mind. The only one that leaves me terrified. I've asked myself
Winter has arrived in Montana. While this season is arguably the most beautiful time of year, it can also be very harsh. The days are short, the cold and the wind make even simple tasks more difficult. But that doesn't stop Montanans from doing what needs to be done. It's been nearly 11 months since Mike Hanson was killed on his own property. And despite the many difficulties investigating this case, the team has remained optimistic and steadfast. But now the biggest legal hurdle has arrived: submitting a petition to summon a grand jury. Well, let's start easy. What's your name and what do you do?
My name's Bart Crabtree out of Great Falls, Montana. In 2019, I was one of the co-founders of the Montana Citizens Council on Judicial Accountability. And we got involved in some legislation in 2021 and 2023. A lot of people have recognized and unfortunately had to live through a lot of corruption in our court systems in Montana. And that's what we're doing. We're going after legislation to open the eyes of the public about what's going on, how innocent people are harmed by our courts, how our servants in our judiciary are failed to be held accountable for actions that they should be held accountable for. Myself and our board decided to start looking into grand jury. Grand jury belongs to we the people. It's actually our sword and shield against corrupt government, whether it's the executive branch, the legislative branch, or the judiciary. In this case, it has to be the judiciary. So we started pushing the grand jury issue, and of course it met with a lot of blowback, which really paints a pretty picture. Why are they so adamantly opposed to grand jury? It's because they know it's going to hold them accountable. So that's where we are now.
For the first time ever, a former president has been indicted by a grand jury.
This week, a grand jury could be asked to hand up an indictment.
The decision was made by a grand jury yesterday.
A federal grand jury.
Grand jury?
Grand jury.
Grand jury. A grand jury is a different thing.
Can you explain to people what a grand jury is?
Yeah, all states have grand jury. First of all, you have your federal grand jury system, and you also have your state grand jury system. In my opinion, the federal grand jury system is a total sham. We've all heard the saying, you can indict a ham sandwich. That's because at the federal level, a grand jury is controlled and manipulated by the prosecutor. They only have to bring evidence that's going to indict somebody, okay? That's not the case with a state grand jury. Half of the states in the United States require that a grand jury be used to indict somebody. Once a person is indicted by a state grand jury, that's when the prosecutor and the judge have to bring formal charges to actually take this person or persons to trial for a criminal act, okay? A grand jury only investigates capital and other infamous crimes, meaning murder or serious felonies.
This case certainly qualifies under those criteria. Petitioning a judge to impanel a grand jury has been the goal of this investigation from the beginning. Bart and his organization, the Montana Citizens Council on Judicial Accountability, have been actively advocating for grand jury reform within the state of Montana for 2 years now. They've been met with much opposition and skepticism from the powers that be, but still they keep pushing forward. If they succeed, it could go a long way in reducing the amount of harm done by law enforcement in Montana.
I was thrown in jail for about 7 months on and off. The majority of it I spent in there to have the charges dropped. And about a week before the statute of limitations on me coming back and getting some, some money or however you say, for time lost or whatever, was when he was murdered. And Yeah, essentially all the charges were dropped, and that's just swept under. Yeah, it was just forgotten. And everything on the news, everything, I can't find anything on it, trying to look it up, story that they slandered me with. So,
Yeah, that was rough.
yeah.
I think the last time I went took my dad to the hospital. This was up north in Shelby, though. I took my dad to the hospital, and one of the nurses didn't like that it was all of us and my kids out in the waiting room, and she said, "Oh, well, COVID won't allow us to have, we're trying to lower traffic or this and that." And so they tried kicking me out, and we were just getting ready to leave the hospital, actually, all of us. And they said, "Oh, well, you got to leave." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Oh, well," they started talking to him and didn't answer my question. And then I answered a phone call, and I said, "Oh, well, what's going on?" I said, "I was just dealing with some asshole cops or something like that, and they didn't like that. So they started throwing me around, took me to jail for disorderly conduct or something stupid like that.
The title of this episode is Trust, which often gets mistaken for faith. Trust, assured reliance on the character, ability, strength, or truth of someone or something. Faith, something that is believed, especially with strong conviction. What we're taught growing up is to have trust in people of authority, especially law enforcement. Every kid is taught this in some way. Sadly, that trust is often stripped away over time, as it has been for the Hanson family on multiple occasions. What Bart has is faith in his plan for grand jury reform.
Montana ranks second in the nation in wrongful convictions. We have a lot of people sitting in jails in the prison in Montana that are factually innocent. That's just a fact. But they refuse to acknowledge this. So we're trying to press this issue, okay? When a person is falsely accused, falsely convicted because of what we call lawfare now, and that's what they do. They come out and they try to get people, and these innocent people are convicted. They go to jails or prisons. It harms their families. It costs money to incarcerate people. It throws those families onto, Medicaid and public assistance, things like that. So these people don't consider that kind of stuff. The number one state in the union for wrongful convictions is Illinois. But that's because in Chicago, this is 8-10 years ago, there was what was known as the Sergeant Watts scandal. And that's where a sergeant in the Chicago PD and some other police officers framed a whole bunch of people on drug charges. They were exonerated. I'm talking like hundreds. And this is the only reason Chicago or Illinois is number one in wrongful convictions. Number two is Montana. Now, if that hadn't happened in Chicago, guess who would be number one in wrongful convictions? And guess who the top county is in Montana? Cascade County. That's correct. Yep, it's a fact.
We detailed the statistics of this in the opening episode, so feel free to go back and watch if you've forgotten those numbers. There are many ways in which law enforcement can abuse their power or harm the people they serve. One of those ways, which we discussed at length in the previous episode, is perjury, which is defined as lying while under oath.
Perjury is a huge problem in our courts. And if we could get a bill passed that would put some teeth in that would mandate that a prosecutor or a judge bring charges against somebody that they think might have committed perjury, I personally think a lot of the court proceedings in Montana would probably be cut in half. If people go into court and know that if they lie, that there's going to be serious repercussions. I mean prison time. Not like, oh, you're going to go on 6 months probation and a $200 fine. I mean, bury the person. If they commit perjury in court that harms another person, which it happens, I guarantee it happens, then that person goes to jail. That simple. too many people in our state judiciary who are our servants of we the people think they can operate with impunity because they always get away with these things. And what it boiled down to is that we found that our judiciary is completely self-disciplined, which means we have the judiciary overseeing the judiciary, and we can't have that. So one of the first bills that we did bring was in relation to what's known as the Judicial Standards Commission here in Montana. That's a commission that's comprised of 5 people. And the chairman of it, the two chairmen of it are district court judges. So you have judges overseeing complaints against judges. Okay, it just doesn't work. As many people say, it's the fox guarding the hen house, which is exactly what it is. So we did a lot of digging and found in the previous 4 biennials, or the last 8 years prior to 2021, over 98% of complaints against judges were summarily dismissed. Yeah, it's a very shocking figure. Now, we do realize that there are a lot of complaints by people that are just not happy with the outcome of a court proceeding, whether it's civil or criminal or whatever. But as we got to digging, we found that there were a number of complaints that were very serious, and they were not dealt with in the fashion that we, the people, expect it to be. And a lot of it was just being swept under the rug.
It happens time and time again across the United States and around the globe. A civilian has a valid grievance about a legal predicament in which they find themselves, but they are denied any right to recourse and are often completely ignored in their plea to be heard.
As far as Jesse Slaughter, yeah, I had a little run-in with him, and it wasn't good at all.
What instigated that?
So my daughter at the time was, I don't know, like 2 years old, or a year and a half, something like that. We were having a barbecue. All of our neighbors in the apartment were out and, enjoying the sunshine. She was standing out on the front steps of the apartment building. And they said it was cold and she wasn't wearing any clothes, or, whatever his reasoning for. He didn't see me, I don't know, like 30, 40 feet away or something like that. I mean, it couldn't have been very far, but I had my back turned. I was looking on the ground for money because we had recently lost like $200 or $300 or something like that. So I was looking on the ground for the money, and I turned around and there was a guy, getting ready to grab my daughter, and hey, and he was in plain clothes, didn't know he was a cop, trying to grab my kid, and he said, "Who are you?" I said, "That's my kid," and I grabbed her and went to take her inside, and he started trying to drag me down the steps with my daughter in my arms, and my wife came out and pushed it. I can't remember if she pushed him off of me or grabbed her and I pushed him off of me, but we tried going back into the apartment building because it was a secured building, but at the time there was an extension cord in the door, so it didn't close all the way, and so he opened it and followed us, and our apartment was right to the right when you came inside the door. And so we were going in there and tried closing the door, and he put his foot in the door, and he ended up pulling out a gun and pointing it at me, and I don't remember all the details, but yeah, he pulled a gun, and then he kind of scanned the doorway with it, and when he had pointed the gun at my wife and kid, I rushed him, and and so anyways, I got charged with assaulting a peace officer. I didn't know he was a cop. He was in plain clothes. I pled guilty to the endangering the welfare of a child, so that I wouldn't get convicted of the assault on a peace officer resisting arrest.
Interactions with Cascade County law enforcement while in plain clothes has happened at least 2 times to the Hanson family. While this one didn't end in death, it was still harmful to Tim, his wife, and his daughter, all 3 of whom had a gun pointed at them. Also, as Tim pointed out, he can't really remember every single detail since so much time has passed, which is why, as we come upon 1 year since Mike's death, we are doing everything in our power to retain and document all the information that we can.
The more information we have in the petition for a grand jury to a judge, the more likely they are to impanel a grand jury. So we want to be as detailed in that petition for a grand jury, basically like bullet points, well, this, and this, and also have some evidence backing it up as far as some documents that are attached to it and such. And then hopefully a district court judge will impanel a grand jury. And it doesn't have to be a judge from within our county. We can go outside. We can get a district court judge anywhere in the state of Montana. For one thing, it would be probably a conflict of interest if we tried to get a judge in this county to impanel a grand jury. Okay, judges and police, sheriffs, deputies, they always work together. And that's part of the problem. They've all become friends to the point where they're trying to protect one another instead of doing what's right. There's a lot of good police officers, there's a lot of good sheriff's deputies, but when they turn a blind eye to stuff that's going on, that they know what's going on, that's wrong. And that's where we, the people, need to step in and assume a responsible role in it.
Remember that lawyer from episode 2, James Denton? He was speaking to exactly this: assert your rights. The last time a grand jury was convened in Montana was 35 years ago. It's a right that the people of Montana haven't asserted, and it's almost fallen to the wayside. But people like Bart are reviving it and informing civilians exactly how to utilize it.
We have, as you know, we have a short list of judges that we believe will assist us in this, in getting one impaneled. I'm not going to name names, obviously. You can't even beat it out of me.
We'll try after this.
Okay. But in the event that it is rejected, which we don't think it will be, we can file what's known as a writ of mandamus or a writ of mandamus, one of the two. That would go to the Supreme Court, this writ of mandamus, where the Supreme Court would override the district court judge and say, no, there is more than enough evidence here. These people have a right to a grand jury. I have no hope in our Supreme Court now doing that. A little research for anybody that's viewing this podcast. You can go back in 1972 was our constitutional convention. In 73 is when the grand jury thing was amended. In 74, Robert Woodall, who was the attorney general there, he was investigating a fraud and abuse in our workman's comp system. And he filed for mind you, this was the attorney general of the state of Montana, filed for a grand jury to be impaneled to help his office investigate this fraud in the workman's comp. The two judges in Lewis and Clark County denied him. So he filed a writ to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court at that time was very honorable. And they came back with a blistering rebuke of those two judges. And you should read it for yourself. But in essence, what they said is that all the reasoning these two district court judges had was wanting. It wasn't based on legal basis. So the Supreme Court allowed Woodall to go ahead with a grand jury. People were indicted, they were convicted, sent to prison for fraud in workman's comp. You know, we have a lot of good judges in Montana. But again, getting back to what I commented about the sheriff's department or the police, if you know something bad is going on and you're not doing anything to help rectify it, you're just as culpable. And that's what's happening.
I was telling someone in my office just today that I would love to say that our system is this perfect system where the good guy always wins, and the Matlock, Perry Mason, oh, you got me, I would have got away with it if it wasn't for you kids. That's just not the way our system works, unfortunately. The more that you peel back the curtain, the more you see the Wizard of Oz. It's much less fair, much less justice driven than we all sort of think it is. It's almost like the dollar has value because we all think it does, not because it actually does. That said, I've done a lot of international law, a lot of international criminal law, Central Europe, Eastern Europe, the British system in islands, and our system is still better than theirs. So it's not perfect, but at least we're trying to give the defendant a fair shot. And it depends on your state, on where the bias is.
Even though, according to Dutton, our legal system is one of the best in the world, there still is massive room for improvement. Anyone who has ever set foot in a courtroom, whether guilty or innocent, knows this to be a fact. It's often inefficient and frustrating, and while change doesn't happen overnight, it does happen. It just takes a while, and patience is needed.
Here in Montana, like I said, about half the states use grand jury solely to charge somebody with a crime. The other half, like Montana, used what they call information and affidavit for leave, something like that. I'm paraphrasing. And what the problem is there is you can literally have one police officer or sheriff's deputy take his report to the county attorney's office and have one deputy county attorney submit a request to the judge to have a person charged. So you literally have only two people that can have a single individual charged with a serious crime. And once that occurs, that can destroy a person's reputation. It can destroy their lives. It can destroy their livelihoods. All kinds of things, a fallout from it. This is why a grand jury is important. All a grand jury does is investigate, okay? They don't charge people with a crime. But once here in Montana, a grand jury consists of 11 people, and it takes 8 of those 11 to indict somebody, okay? Once a person is indicted, that indictment goes to the judge, and the judge has to sign a warrant for the arrest, and that officially charges a person. And then that person is tried in a regular trial that we're all used to, okay? So the grand jury, once they're impaneled, that's the key thing, is once they're impaneled, they're the pinnacle of law enforcement in the county. The prosecutors and the judge answer to them. They are the top law dog in the county. They do the investigating. If they need to have a witness come in, they have the sheriff's deputies issue a subpoena and go subpoena this person or that person. Or if they want evidence like computers or whatever brought in, they can have that issued as well. So the sheriff's department and the judge and prosecutor basically are at the grand jury's beck and call.
When that happens, if the grand jury, let's say in this case, is investigating the sheriff's department, how does that work if the sheriff's department is supposed to be at their beck and call?
Well, they'd be mandated by law. If a grand jury wants them to serve a warrant for something, they would be obligated to do so. And if they refuse to, guess who could be the next one in line for a grand jury indictment or investigation? So it would be pretty silly of them to play politics and not do this.
While that scenario isn't the ideal scenario, it's certainly better than the fox guarding the hen house. Accountability within government is a necessity for it to be fair and efficient, and that accountability has to be enforced by we, the people.
Personally, I think the biggest problem we have is educating the public on these things. Learn the Constitution. Learn the basic civics of our government. I mean, it's unbelievable how ignorant people are out there because they've never spent time. Here we are, a free society. We have all this power and we the people, and they don't give a damn, you know? And I'm just as culpable. I was this way 10 years ago. I was so busy with work and life and everything. Unless it's happened to you or your family, you don't even think about this stuff, okay? So educating even our legislators on this stuff, like the grand jury we brought, that legislative referendum to get it on the ballot, didn't even make it out of the House Judiciary because members of our judiciary came in there and testified in person, untruthfully, I might say. But it's important that we get the people, especially our representatives, educated on this stuff. What is grand jury? What is a conviction integrity unit? All this stuff. People need to get back to basic civics in our Constitution. We the people are the masters. The people in our government are the servants. But somehow that's gotten flipped on its head and people have come to accept that. But we don't have to. This is where grand jury comes in. You and I have the right, the constitutional right, to a grand jury. So why does it take a group of citizens to come along, research this, and start doing something about it? It is truly the weapon of the people against an abusive government, and that's where we're at now.
As of the third week of January, our petition for impaneling a grand jury will have been submitted to a district judge. It is now our turn to trust someone in authority to honestly review our petition, evidence, and affidavits, and ultimately decide whether or not we have built a case worth pursuing. If you, the audience, would like to help in our efforts, spread this show far and wide. The more people who see it, the more likely something good can come from it.
I sat in, I had a case, and I asked one of my friends to go sit with me, and we went in, and the judge literally put in his own case study, his own case law, overturned an argument on the defense side, and the defense had no discovery, they couldn't cover it, and the prosecuting attorney had nothing. And the judge saw this, so he just went ahead and put in his own and said, nope, we're not going to go any further with this. They're still going to be charged. It was on an appeal for fleeing an officer. And I'm like, okay, we've got a serious problem here in Great Falls, Montana somehow. And that kind of led us down these rabbit holes that we've been going down and finding out what's really been happening here.
Any municipality, anywhere you live, there's likely going to be some sort of corruption. You just have to start looking. Sometimes it's going to be hard, but if you look enough, you'll find something eventually. And I think it's just so astonishing when me just starting to look, there was just so many questions that I had. When you look at who we have up in our jails and what their charges are, what their bails are, some of the things just don't make any sense. You have individuals up there with $500,000 bonds that and their charges are accountability and city contempt. There's a lot of things that just don't make sense from a citizen's perspective and how it's accounted for in all of the data that you can look at. So either the transparency isn't really happening and the paperwork and the documentation isn't happening, which, I mean, that in of itself is a problem. But then who knows what else, every other thing that's happening behind the scenes that isn't captured in that documentation. So again, I think for anyone to really want to start solving problems in the community, just start looking at your governmental websites, see what sort of data and sources you have. You'll start finding things.
I don't really trust the police, and I really don't feel like they're looking out for me every time that I deal with them. And majority of the time I end up getting thrown around or, taken to jail or tried with some stupid.
That's just basic human nature. If you feel wronged by something or someone, trust will begin to erode. If it happens repetitively, it might dissolve altogether. The importance of those in authority treating citizens respectfully cannot be overstated. But sadly, that's not always the way things go. And Mike Hanson paid the ultimate price.
When you look at some of the photographs from the autopsy, the audio recording of the incident itself, it really raises your eyebrows and things just don't add up. And we, the people, have the right, the constitutional right to address this through a grand jury if we so choose, okay? Even if we only think something is going on, we have a right to impanel a grand jury. So, but we feel there's a lot more evidence as to that more did happen there than what's been addressed so far. And in that incident on February 23rd, it's very clear that Mr. Hanson, on 5 different occasions, told Deputy Try, come back when you get your warrant. He was well within his right. That's when he turned around to walk away, and that's when things just blew up. Okay. And it's a shame that all this happened over a bag of cat food, like Kevin said. I mean, a man is dead because of it, and it's really sad. Yeah. So.
We've spoken a lot about trust today. It's not a secret that Mike Hanson didn't trust law enforcement. But one thing he did have was faith. He was an ordained minister. His Bible is well worn from decades of use and is now cherished by his family. He filled notebooks with verses from that Bible to help guide him in his life. No one in this world is perfect, for all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. But these items are little bits of evidence that he was consistently trying to improve, and that's an admirable trait. It's a lesson we've taken to heart, and it's something that we should not only expect, but demand from people in authority.
Honestly, people need to get involved. We've had too much apathy with our citizens. We need to take back control of our government is what we have to do. Yeah. So personally, what happened to me, things were going great back until, I guess it was 2016, and I was falsely accused of something, and something I never did. And they charged me with it, even though the police detective, one police officer accused me of it, went to the county attorney's office, one deputy county attorney. Those two people had me charged with the crime. I never hired a lawyer. I didn't see any need to because I figured we go into trial, everybody's going to be honest and above board. It's not true. I sat there during that trial in awe of the lies that were going on. They knew it. They knew what was going on. I ended up getting convicted, and I spent 7 months in jail and 10 months at a pre-release center for something I never did. And this is what started this whole crusade. And there's a lot of people out there that have been hurt by this stuff. And I'm not going to stop. So that's my personal story, my personal testimony.
Cascade Effect is brought to you by Peaceful Sea Network. Theme song by Jay Denton and Hannah Parrott. Special thanks to Kevin Leatherbarrow, Tony Rosales, Tim Hanson, Arliss Hanson, Bart Crabtree, the Cascade County Libertarian Party, and the Montana Citizens Council on Judicial Accountability. Copyright 2024, all rights reserved.
I'm going to make it clear it's not about Tim.
They can hear you, though.
Nah.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for sticking around for the Q&A. My name is Jake Green, and I'm joined by, well, if I can get him on the screen, Tony Rosales and Kevin Leatherbarrow. How y'all doing?
Doing fantastic.
It's our first time doing one of these in the same room.
It's a
How do
little
y'all feel
weird.
about that?
Yeah, we've all been split up, and yeah, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, the only person not here is
the star
put on stage, Mr. Bart Crabtree. What's going on, brother? Can you hear us?
Hello, hello, gentlemen. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
I can, sir.
How you doing tonight?
It's been one of those days. Just go, go, go. Lots going on.
Yeah, well, Bart, you were definitely the main focus of this past episode as far as who was on screen the most. So, how does it feel to watch that episode?
A little odd. Yeah,
That's fair.
I'm glad I've been involved in the legislature the last 3 sessions now, so I've become a little bit used to it. So
Yeah, it took me a very long time to get used to it. I never really ever wanted to be on camera, but then my brother and I traveled around the world for a year and had to film ourselves the whole time. So it you get used to it after a while.
yeah, you do. Well, you've all done a great job. I really appreciate all you. Without that call from Kevin about 6 months ago to have me join in with you guys, this never would have happened. And we're really getting the word out about what grand jury is and the issues of our judiciary and the abuse that a lot of people are taking from it. So it's a fact out there, and people got to wake up to it.
Yeah, agreed. Tony, Kevin, what did y'all think about episode 4?
You want to go first?
Sure. Well, I mean, despite us chatting with Bart for these last couple of months or so, I've still learned so much from watching this episode, because Bart, you have so much knowledge about what our justice system looks like here in Montana, and how a grand jury should operate, and especially its constitutional power, as well as the right of the people, is something that's I mean, I've really appreciated, especially after watching this episode, just because, I think it's easy to just assume, especially from someone from Montana, it's easy to assume that our judiciary or government is just as lovely of a place as Montana is. But honestly, it seems like the exact opposite. It puts into question sometimes wanting to be here in Montana, other than the people and the wonderful place that is Montana. All of that is great, but then just having this government that can really screw you over in many different ways without much recourse on your end is frustrating. I mean, I haven't been in that particular situation, but just knowing other people who have, and knowing that it's very difficult to help them is something very frustrating for me. And I'm glad we're doing this project as a group here to be able to demonstrate, a bunch of like-minded individuals who really want justice in a meaningful way. We can make it happen despite not having legal backgrounds or official legal backgrounds. None of us are lawyers, and so I think this really just brings it back to the founding of America and the responsibilities that we have in civil discourse and being involved in the civil process.
Daggum.
Yeah, amen.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you think?
Well, I think Bart should get some kind of doctorate. I think
an honorary doctorate.
Yeah, I really do.
Yeah.
I think, the time that we have, like you said, when we started this, I mean, we all love reading, we all love
Speak for
law
yourself,
and
Kevin.
whatever
Speak
else.
for
Well,
yourself,
I use
man.
YouTube now.
Okay, so we don't like reading. All right, yes. Thank you, AI, for ruining this again. Here we go. But no, Bart, I mean, we didn't have anywhere to go, and I knew nothing of a grand jury.
Yeah.
And the amount of work that you have put in. I know we were on the telephone, gosh, I don't know how many times, or texting, or when we missed this, or does this, or how do you write this petition? How do you write this? How do you write that? It was really literally going back to school and digging in and reading it objectively at the same time reading it historically. And I think Bart was a very big part of that. Jake for bringing it out and letting them know that we're just citizens who really, when you look at it, we just gave the people to call and actually just take a look at it.
Yeah.
Whatever their decision is what their decision is. I can't believe they can't wrap their head around that. Because once Bart explained it to me, because I read the bad press on it. Bart, I've read your bad press and some of the things that they have said and gone, but that means you were over the target, though. You're over the target, and you are directly over the target now. And we seriously can't thank you enough for all that you've done up until this point.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely, Bart. Really appreciate it, man. Yeah, it was fun filming that interview with you. And yeah, I mean, just the amount of, in that 1 hour interview, the amount of knowledge that you packed in there was insane. Like, I had to go research half the stuff you talked about because I didn't know what half of it meant. You know, I just make videos. So, but yeah, everybody out there, there's a few questions in the comment section. We're going to get to those. If you do have questions, please type them up, send them to us. We're gonna answer all your questions in just a minute. But before we do, so this episode is all about the grand jury and getting our petition out there to get and panel a grand jury. That petition was submitted on the 13th and was denied a couple hours later. So it was, I don't know how many. Do we have the exact number of minutes in between when she got it and when she?
We said hello to her in the hall.
I think,
and 3 hours later it was done.
Right. So we had filed it probably like around 10:30 or so,
Right.
10:30, 11. We saw him in the hall just as we were leaving.
Yes, honorable best. That was me, Kevin Leatherbarrow. I said hello to you. Yeah, dog. And we walked right down and out. Right.
And we looked at her docket, and I think she was supposed to be in session or in court at that time as well. So I'm not sure if they ended early or there was a recess.
Right.
But yeah, so that was around 10:30, 11, and then when we got the certified letters from Tina Henry's office, the clerk, I think it was time stamped at about 1:30, 1:33. So what is that, like 2 hours?
2 hours 45 minutes.
Yeah,
And that's with like evidence, guys. I mean, it's not like
the binder was thick, like it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. It was a thick binder, and we learned also that she also had another petition to look over that day, and
That's
along
crazy.
with being in court for
That's
part of the
crazy.
day. So like during that time, she was there's no chance she was able to read the entire petition, look at all the evidence, and actually consider what the petition was. She just rubber stamped it and moved on with her day.
Which is ironic because I think we talked about it. Why not just wait the week and let us at least think you read it?
Yeah.
I mean, we spent 7 months on this project, 8 months since it's kicked off, and
As
So,
our
that's a
elected
question.
official, I mean,
Exactly.
it's one of the things that we should expect of our of our judges to at least read a petition that we submit to her.
No dissent either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No
Yeah,
reasons
Bart,
why.
is she required to give any type of reasoning or dissent?
Yeah, she is. As a matter of fact, I've been in touch with a couple of attorneys regarding that, and that was their first question to me. Well, what reasoning did she give for it? And I told them there was none. And I don't want to speculate as to the time frame that she had it and why she denied it. But the fact is, we the people do have a right to that grand jury, and this really proves, without a doubt, why we need to get this bill passed in the legislature that's pending right now. We brought it in 2023. And then as you guys know, we tried to get a citizens initiative on this issue, the constitutional amendment, last year. I was actually on the road a lot last winter gathering signatures for a citizens initiative. We needed to get like 70,000 signatures across Montana, which was a really heavy lift to try to get it on the ballot last November to let the voters decide. But what this case proves right now is that our one district court judge controls our grand jury system. And the grand jury belongs to we the people. And our judiciary has no business controlling our grand jury, yet that's what's happening. So we have brought a bill again this session. It's actually still in LC mode, but it's about to be issued a House bill number. It's currently LC 3066. It's the same as the one we brought in 2023, But the important thing is now is we have about 15 to 20 legislators who are co-sponsoring this bill this time. So the education is getting out there. The people are starting to understand the importance of the grand jury. There was very compelling evidence in this case, and the judge denied it. So obviously we're taking the next step. We're going to go to the Supreme Court and we'll see what happens there, but we're not going to give up on it. This is too important. We have let our government hijack our grand jury system, and we're just not going to stand for it.
So Bart, can you mention the bill, or at least the LC number again? And because I think this is important, especially for any Montanans who are watching this, just because they have a say. They're constituents of some legislator, state legislator, so they should be contacting them, asking them to support this legislation.
They should be. Yeah, it's LC 3066 is the LC number. And like I said, they'll probably here in the next 3 or 4 days, I expect to have a House bill assigned to it. And you can go to legmt.gov and you can do a bill search in there. Yeah,
there's another nice bill. There's another nice bill coming up too about recall that's being carried by one of our senators. It just so happens to be a good parallel to this case on recalling, where this bill would look at where you really don't have to have that much of a reason to do so. The people get to decide who is in and who is out at those particular times. So it's another good bill, and it kind of just paralleled, just so happened to parallel with what's been going on.
Well, and also to bring let's see, let me expose this. We're also bringing another bill with one of our senators in the state of Montana that is going to require all prosecutors across Montana to use a grand jury before they can bring any felony charges against somebody.
Wow.
About half the states across Montana, or across the United States, excuse me, require the use of a grand jury before a prosecutor can bring serious felony charges against somebody. Montana is not one of them. And that's one of the reasons Montana has a very high rate of wrongful convictions and corruption going on. So we're pretty excited about that bill. We don't think it'll go anywhere this year, but it's going to start the education of it, the visitation of that issue. It might take a couple sessions to get it through, but it needs to be done. Look at what happened to my now good friend Jess Boyd from North Carolina. The missionaries that were arrested down in Madison County 2 years ago. That case, they never should have been arrested to begin with. And then you had an overzealous prosecutor from the Attorney General's office that went after them with everything he had. That prosecutor even tried to get the judge, it was Judge Berger out of Madison County, I can't remember what district that is down there, tried to get that judge to change the statute that protects a person when they're defending themselves. This is how far our prosecutors have gone. They actually go after innocent people. They don't even think twice about it. So we, the people, need to take this back from these overzealous prosecutors and this corrupt judiciary.
Never thought it was exposed all this. Never in a million dreaming years would I ever think that it exposed everything that we probably, as Americans, free loving people, actually didn't know. Yeah, I guess you have to go sit in a courtroom, I guess, and really go witness it yourself. And then unfortunately we got to hear all of these other stories that pour in on this issue that is just simply overwhelming.
Well, there's a lot of bills that are being brought right now too from that Senate's Special Select Committee this past spring, summer, and fall that are going after judicial reform. And there's a lot of good bills there, and I would invite everybody to look into those and testify in favor of those. For one, it's going to make it easier to impeach officers, meaning judges as well. And also go after prosecutors that overzealously prosecute innocent people. It needs to be done. It has to be done. So it's a great start. They brought I think there's 26 bills that have been brought. I've testified at several of them so far, but there's more to come, obviously.
I think that speaks more to the issues that we have here in Montana. If there's that many bills that are coming forward relating to
they need to reverse
judicial reform,
some stuff that has happened. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's been crazy.
Yeah.
Well, let's get to a couple questions. The first one's from Heather. She says, now knowing that the petition for grand jury investigation has been denied, what is the next step? Writ of mandamus. How can we, the people, help move this forward? So we actually, we've got a few ways for you to help, at least bring attention to this. And I've got a little slideshow for you. So you can help the cause by these ways, and we're going to get into each one here in a minute. We're going to make a recall petition that we're going to put out directly after this show. We're going to put it on our Facebook, on our X page, and you can go sign it. Whether that actually ends up doing anything or not doesn't actually matter as much to me. I think it's more of a show that this many people don't want Elizabeth Best in office anymore because she just denied a constitutional right. The second one is you can send certified letters to Judge Best telling her to step down, demanding she step down from her post. You can donate to our advertising campaign, which we'll get to in a minute. You can donate to our petition costs, and you can share the show. And all these things we'll get into here in just a second. Like I was saying, you can sign the recall petition. Elizabeth Best denied our constitutional right to impanel a grand jury. She's unfit for office and should be recalled. Sign the petition. And like I said, after this show, we're going to put it out there, and you'll be able to sign it if you so choose. Bart, do you have anything to say about a recall petition?
Well, from my experience, recall petitions really don't do anything. That's why we've been pursuing legislation. That's where the meat is to approach the problems that we have, and we've been making a lot of headway. But to answer her question as far as the writ of mandamus, yes, we're going to file that. First, we filed a notice of appeal with the Supreme Court of Montana. I say that with tongue in cheek. But then we actually filed the brief and the motion for the writ. And what a writ of mandamus is, if the Supreme Court of Montana approves it, they send back a notice to the judge that denied this, in case this is Elizabeth Best, and would force her to impanel a grand jury. Now, if the Supreme Court doesn't do anything, then we are prepared to move forward to U.S. District Court and beyond. This is just too important of an issue just to leave with our Montana Supreme Court or a district court judge. I can't stress enough how much that the grand jury belongs to we the people, and we got to take it back.
Heck yeah. Yeah. Y'all have anything about say anything about the recall petition?
Like you hit it right on the head. It's your way of saying, I mean, signing the petition would be your way of saying, listen, we're listening and we're hearing, right? So,
yeah.
No, and I'm not, I'm not, you're absolutely right, Bart, which is really a sad thing to say. And what this does for the people is gives you the word. If something does happen, it goes to a jury. I'm just going to keep repeating it. They decide. The citizens decide. What is it, 8 of them, right, or 7? How does that work, Bart?
With the grand jury?
Yeah, how many can decide on the outcome?
Oh, when a grand jury is impaneled, it's 11 citizens in the county, and it takes 8 of them to agree and hand down an indictment that would force the courts to impanel the grand jury. So, and like I said, there is more than enough compelling evidence in this case to do so.
Gotcha.
As you all know.
That just blows my mind.
Mm-hmm. I think it's sort of interesting because Bart's right in terms of the teeth of a petition, or at least on the legal side there isn't too much teeth, but a lot of it really comes down to just the show of support that you get from this. But I think having it demonstrates another problem that we have with in Montana, that we have such a high standard to be able to execute any sort of constitutional rights or exercise our rights as people, as the people, whereas on the other side there's such a low standard for our judicial system to be able to prosecute people and hand down charges for felonies. So the balance of power seems heavily in favor of the government as opposed to the people where it should be.
And we learned that with Bart.
Yeah.
I mean, this opened up so many doors. I mean, just like rabbit hole after going. And we did seek counsel. We sought for people to help us, and they were generous. There's a lot of generous people that came out of. So
100%. Heather then asks, residing in Texas, am I qualified to sign a recall petition in Montana? So you will be able to sign it if it does if we do end up submitting the recall petition. If we do end up submitting it, if we get enough signatures, your signature technically wouldn't count, but it would count just as a show of force. This many people are watching you. This many people want you to be held accountable for your actions.
Across the country too, right? I think that's,
thank you, Texas.
That's the impressive thing there.
Yeah, heck yeah. All right.
Friends in Texas.
Well, I would like to say this, that a recall petition will actually allow you to make a statement. Okay, but the only way to impeach a district court judge in the state of Montana is through our legislature. It's no different than at the House level. They have to be impeached by the House and then tried by the Senate. So, but the issue about the recall petition is that you as a person are making a statement, and that is very important. So, like I said, there are some very important bills coming up in our Senate. I mean, I have a whole stack of them right here that we're going to be.
Now he's got all the paperwork. I don't have the big stacks giving them to you, Jake, anymore. It's on him.
There's a whole bunch of them here, but one of them is going to make it easier to go after officers, and that includes district court judges too. Right now, it's very difficult to meet that threshold, but this bill with the Senate Select Committee is going to make it a bit easier. So, I mean, hats off to all those that worked hard in that Senate committee this last year. They brought some really good bills, and I would encourage all of you to follow those and call in and testify, come in person, or send a letter to the appropriate committee. Some of them are in the House, some of them are in the Senate. So do your due diligence. You can again just go to ledgemt.gov and find out about it.
We do have a specific question for you, Bart. What is the history behind why grand juries are not regularly used anymore?
Very good question. In a long time ago, and I mean a long time ago, there was a case called Hurtado v. California that went to the Supreme Court. And unfortunately, our SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States, came out with a ruling basically stating that states do not have to use grand juries. I mean, I could go on for an hour with this. I don't want to bore you with it, but I would encourage you to go look at that case. And in the I can't remember when it was exactly, but Montana elected to go strictly with the information and affidavit for leave, meaning where just one police officer and one deputy county attorney could have somebody charged with a crime. And it opens up, it makes it so easy to charge somebody with a crime based on incomplete, inaccurate information filed by a police officer or the county attorney's office. And it does happen, I guarantee you.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
we believe that, and again, everybody saw the video earlier. Montana is one of the highest ranking states in wrongful convictions. There are a lot of people that are wrongfully charged with crimes. It costs them a lot of money. Even if the charges are dropped, again, let's look at the Jess Boyd, the missionaries from North Carolina. They become very good friends with me. They're following this stuff. North Carolina, they require a grand jury be used before somebody can be charged with a crime. And we just feel it's time that we have to get back to that in Montana.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. All right. Next way you can help us. You can send certified letters to Judge Best to inform Judge Best that you are aware of her breach of the oath of office and demand that she step down from her seat. You can send that certified letter right there to that address below. I'll leave that up on the screen for a minute. That's an extremely easy one to do. It will only take you a few minutes. Bart, is there anything that they should like include in that letter?
Boy, I don't know. I think that Judge Best has a pretty bad history. She was appointed to that bench in 2016, I believe it was. And in my personal opinion, she has done a great disservice to many, many people. So
Didn't we say she was petitioned before?
She was petitioned before.
Do we remember? Do we know when she was petitioned before?
2022 and 2023.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, here comes a second.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that because in our Constitution, Montana Constitution, these judges are still elected by the people, but sort of like it's all for show. That's not truly what happens in reality. From my experience about what we see from a lot of our district court judges is that there's a vacancy and then the governor appoints someone during that vacancy. And so very rarely does anyone run against them, especially because they probably don't have the qualifications. Because I think you do have to have a law degree to be able to, or at least be a lawyer to run for those offices. And the incumbent always has a lot of the advantage. So most of the time it's just a retention election as opposed to someone actually running against them. So most of the time our district court judges are appointed by the governor, and then the people need to try and vote them out through a retention election, which is incredibly difficult. So it kind of lacks that ability of the people to truly select their judges like it describes in the Constitution.
And it's so easy to get entrenched and vote for something that you think somebody knows, like our last judge election, and that was with Kale and who was running. We interviewed him.
Yeah, I know. I forgot.
Yeah.
He actually won too.
Right. We wanted. Yeah. But again, they were in the establishment, though. They came. Yeah. He came from the DA.
He came from the prosecutor's office, the city prosecutor's office. So he's friends with the prosecutors or knows them.
Right.
Has had relationships with them.
I mean, it just proves a point. That's all I'm saying here, right? I mean, because Cal was good to go.
Yeah.
You know, new blood, fresh in, fresh eyes, and everybody who wanted voted the other way.
Brad made a comment, said, "Great, we're bringing attention to this, guys." Brad, I've been on Brad's show. If anybody wants to go watch some entertaining news coverage, some political coverage, go watch the Propaganda Report. Brad Binkley is the man. Hilarious actor, comedian, and political commentator.
Was that the last show you were on?
Or not the last show I was on. It was a few shows ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he's down in Georgia, based outside of Atlanta. That dude is awesome. We do a lot of man on the street stuff with him because he has no filter and no shame. It's the best way to. It's the best kind of person to go film with.
Oh, we need to bring him on the show. We need to bring him on here. Nice to have you. Thank you for coming.
All right. Let's see. Let's keep going down different. Whoa, that's a different layout. That's not the one I wanted. There we go. Okay. Next one is donate to our advertising campaign. And these two kind of go hand in hand. Let's see. Oh, Ray says incorrect address. County courthouse address.
Correct.
Whoops. My bad. Thank you so much, Ray.
Hey, thanks for putting that up there, Ray.
So this was our former county commissioner, Ray Brokowski.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So send it to this address, not the one that we had up on screen a minute ago. 415.
I was going to ask you about that. I was going to ask you about that address. Wait, 2 Park South Drive. That doesn't sound quite right.
Well, that's
Thank
my
you.
bad.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you, Ray.
He's not a Montana native.
I'm
We'll
not
forgive
and
him.
I don't even live in Cascade County. I live in Lewis and
You know,
Clark County, so cut me some
You know,
slack.
you guys, I want to point something out here too. District court judges ultimately are responsible for everything that goes on in a courtroom. And that's just not happening. Some of these judges are letting these prosecutors, these county attorneys run those courtrooms, even letting the sheriffs do that. And it has to stop. And there, like I said in the interview, there's a lot of good judges across Montana. And it's saddening that when these judges see this kind of stuff going on and they don't call it out, it's bad. It gives the whole judiciary a black eye. And it's the responsibility of we, the people, to step up and do something about it. And that's what we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. All right. Now we'll get to the next thing. Donate to our advertising campaign, and we'll get to the next one, which is also a donation page. They're going to be on the same page. So we intend to launch a countywide and then statewide advertising campaign, including digital advertisements, billboards, and other physical ads. This is costly, and we can't do it alone. So every dollar donated will go to that campaign. Not one single dollar will be used outside of what you donate to. And you can go donate at peacefulseed.network/support Cascade. And I'll show you that page real quick.
I still owe you $50.
60.
60?
$60.
Yeah, because we had to pay to have it put in, guys. So we
had to pay to execute our constitutional right.
Constitutional right. What was it? $150?
120. That
120.
Yeah.
120.
There we go. So yeah, make an impact today. You can support our ad campaigns. This will be the advertisement donations. You can do custom amount. We have preset amounts. You can do one-time donation, monthly, weekly, what have you. You can do petition cost donations. We detail why you should give. You can go watch the series from here, but this will be the page that you land on if you go to that address right down there. And like I said, every single dollar that comes in through those accounts, and they're marked specifically in my account, in my business's account, that will go towards advertising and towards the petition costs, which will help us a lot. Because what we want to do is get more eyes and more pressure on these government officials that aren't living up to the duties that they swore to do.
There's a lot of benches around here in Great Falls that now the election season's over with, they put their coverings on looking for advertising. So we could just cover this town with the Cascade Effect.
Oh,
red everywhere. The new red wave.
We could. I like that kind of red wave. Oh, and I've already got one. Yeah. Go ahead, Bart.
I was going to say, here's that bill I was mentioning a little bit earlier, as far as making it easier to impeach an officer. This is Senate Bill number 15.
And I'm prolific.
Excuse me. It was introduced by Tom McGilvery. He's a senator from Billings. I was there and testified on behalf of this last week. It was on January 16th. It's a bill for an act entitled "An Act Providing for Additional Grounds for the Impeachment of Officers and Amending the Section of 5-5-401 Montana Code Annotated." So the current law says the governor, executive officers, heads of state departments, and judicial officers are liable to impeachment for felonies and misdemeanors or malfeasance. Now they've added to that corruption, incompetence, negligence in the performance of one's duties, willful neglect of duty, oppressive use of one's office, or misconduct in one's office. So we definitely need support on this. Again, follow that bill. It's Senate Bill number 15.
Whoever the carrier is of that, somebody peed in somebody's Cheerios.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, who writes up? I mean, that language is like, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Wait till you have to write a bill.
Yeah,
I know. I've sat down and actually, with one of my other friends out there. And hello to you if you can watch this.
Yeah, and then the next donation page, same donation page actually. To no one's surprise, it costs money to ask the government to do things. Submitting a writ of mandamus to the Supreme Court is one of those things. We could use help with those costs. And then Hanson's asked, is there a goal amount to reach to make this petition and advertisement all possible? So we haven't discussed the exact amount for the petition costs yet.
Wow.
As far as advertisements go, I mean, the amount of money you can spend on billboards, digital advertisement. I mean,
there's no limit.
There's no limit to what you can spend. I think a good goal to have for that, if we could get somewhere in between 5 to 10 grand of donations for those two, for the advertisement budget, we could make a pretty substantial statement around Cascade and the surrounding area.
Every bench. I mean, we can get how many benches we can get.
I mean, yeah, Facebook advertisements are extremely popular and they reach a ton of people
and pretty cheap. Yeah,
and pretty cheap. So that we would do a lot of those. But I really like physical advertisements. I went ahead and purchased a few hundred Cascade Effect stickers with a QR code on there, and we're just going to start posting those everywhere. We're going to stick those on everything. And yeah, buy merch, wear your merch around. Let people know that there's a show out there detailing what is going on in their law enforcement community, and then their
especially a bumper sticker, because law enforcement's going to see that as they're following you here in Cascade County.
Yeah,
So
we have a bumper sticker now on the website, so go buy that sucker. It's awesome. If I do say so myself, I designed it. So yeah, those are two. And yeah, we don't have a specific amount right now. I put $2,000 for the petition costs at this point, just because we don't know how long this is going to go, and we've already had some costs,
or how high we have to go to,
or high we have to go to. Again, that could change in the future, so it just depends. But for right now, those are two goals for donations. The next one is share the show. So many of you do this, and it's awesome, and I appreciate it. I see it every time someone shares the show on any platform. I can see it. One of the best ways to put pressure on government officials is through the media. Spread the show far and wide. Tag your local news stations, papers, journalists, representatives, and anyone who has influence in your community. Tag them repeatedly in the episodes, put our episodes on their pages, like put our episodes in the comments on all these kinds of people's pages. Make sure people out there are seeing this, not just in Cascade, specifically in Cascade for sure, but also around the state of Montana, because it's not just Cascade that has so much corruption and so many problems going after innocent people. It's all around Montana as well. So
because like we were saying, these bills that are in there is just paralleling what we did. We had no idea that there was going to be this much legislation coming up into this Montana.
Yeah, and some of those media groups that you can be sharing this to, especially local. So KRTV being one, The Electric being a local online newspaper, Great Falls Gazette, E-City Beats, more Montana-wide, Montana Free Press. There's probably a whole bunch of others that's just aren't coming to mind, but there's a whole lot. Any sort of media that you look into or view on a regular basis, share it with them, post it on their pages, and we'll see what sort of impact that makes, because it definitely will.
Heck yeah. Yeah, and this show should be airing very soon on TV or in the Kalispell area. So that's
what?
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
good
awesome.
for you, Jake.
How do we learn this now? Oh yeah, I think you mentioned that. I don't.
It's been a while.
Yeah,
it's taken a little bit. So
he didn't tell you that.
Jimbo's pulling through, huh?
He's pulling through. Yeah, we signed the contract the other day, and he'll be putting the files on air very soon.
Was there a finder's fee in the contract?
It's free for both sides. So no, you get a percentage of our free contract.
A pat on the back, Bart. Next time we see you.
I appreciate that. I need that a lot, I'll tell you.
Everybody out there, this episode, normally our Q&A episodes are going to go straight to the Dollar Media Club on PCLC Network. This episode will stay live for everybody. You can share this episode around. Anybody can view it for the foreseeable future, in infinitum, however long into the future the internet lasts.
Till the collapse of civilization,
there we go.
I suppose.
So yeah, that's something we're doing different with this episode because it is a call to action. I got, like, in this past episode at the end, I mentioned like it just takes patience for change to happen. And when I saw the timestamp on the denial, I have not been more enraged in a very long time. I got extremely heated. I lost all patience. There was no patience left for me to give. And yeah, we decided we need to have a lot of help. And
yeah, I remember seeing your text.
Yeah, I was very displeased.
And
we all were, but
we want to take anybody. We haven't heard any. We want to hear the negative too. We want to hear from people. Listen, comment, talk to us. Do those things. Reach out, and we can probably answer some more of those questions on here when we get there. And I personally want to answer a question that was brought to me by Corey Reeves. Why won't I apologize to all of the sheriffs? And I will say this: I have never said this is about all of the sheriff's department. I've never said that. And
that's right.
This has nothing. That just shows the ignorance of it. And I'm going to answer that there. Listen, all you law enforcement agencies out there, listen, we're with you in so many ways. This helps your job. This takes relief off of you with having the grand juries, meaning you don't have to have these other pressures. Let the people decide and follow the Constitution.
Yeah.
If you're really reading what we're doing, how can you say, and we're just asking as citizens, say that I need or somebody else needs to apologize to all the other sheriffs that I've thrown under the bus or personal attacks? We have very little personal attacks, right? I don't think we stay the course, and where the evidence has taken us, that's what we have been on.
Yeah.
And we will take those questions. We will take those requests too. But upon those requests, we're going to give a straight answer. And that's my straight answer. Listen, you guys are all doing great jobs, and we know you risk your lives and all of that. But you also know when there's something going on.
Speaking of, here is a comment from earlier in the stream. Carrie says the young man, she's referring to Tim, stated every time he has dealt with the police, he is victimized. Stay out of trouble. Police won't bother you if you do nothing wrong. 90% of this town isn't having multiple law enforcement encounters. First off, Pam and Mike did nothing wrong, and Mike's dead. So law enforcement will bother you even if you're doing nothing wrong. That is a really ignorant and privileged way to look at other people getting victimized by the police. It's that's just something you have not talked to enough people in order to make a statement like that.
Yeah, and second of all, I don't think you get to victimize anybody else. This is about where we are with Mike. This case is about our rights, Mike's rights, and all of those other things. Those who are in this, personal attacks outside of that are uncalled for.
Yeah.
Stay objective, stay on task, stay where we are.
Yeah.
Be careful. Sometimes those things you won't be able to put your head on the pillow at night.
It's true. Yeah. Tony, you got anything to add?
No, I think that really hits it on the nail. And I think while yes, it might not be as public in terms of how often law enforcement are going after whatever percentage of the population, I think part of that is, especially as we've started doing this, we've gotten contacted by a lot of different folks through various medium, through our Cascade County Libertarian Party, through our personal Facebook or social media accounts, on email, even through letters from some folks as well. And so this stuff is resonating with folks, and in some of the things that we read, it's not stuff that you are seeing publicized on any sort of regular basis. I think there's a lot more that is not really out there in the community that we know of. And I think we should be doing our due diligence as the citizens and as our civil responsibility, making sure that we're not necessarily uncovering these, but uncovering the injustices that are actually happening in our communities, and how oftentimes there are public officials who are at the root of those injustices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Kathy says Judge Best was on a roll of denial that day. She denied me for something I didn't even request to be denied. I would like to hear more about that story sometime, Kathy.
That's funny.
That's hilarious.
She was probably
I mean,
thinking,
it's depressing, but also
that's
hilarious.
depressing. She's probably thinking of her dog. Probably stuck in her office the whole time, just wondering who's going to walk it.
By the way,
She
Kathy
did bring her dog.
Kathy previously asked if she could visit with me, so feel free if you can privately give her my contact information.
I'll shoot her a message.
Yeah, I'd definitely like to visit with her.
Okay. Josh says next week all eyes are going to be on the Capital Section D appropriation 27th and 28th. Good opportunity to spread the word. Can you?
Amen, Josh. Amen. Yeah.
Thanks,
Sorry, I
Josh.
missed the meeting last week, Josh.
There we go. So yeah, it just takes patience, and sometimes we lose it. I lose it regularly. My wife can attest to that every single day.
Hey, Jake. Jake.
Yeah.
Could you put Josh's comment back up there so people could read a little more carefully about
Yeah.
As far as the capital Section D appropriations 27th, 28th, everybody go take a look at that. Everything that's coming through the legislature, people, is very, very important. So
tell them one more time how to go check that out and keep an eye on that.
Oh, just go to LEGMT, which stands for Legislator Montana .gov. And you can peruse the site. I know it's a new site this year. It's a little frustrating. They're working the bugs out of it, but just be patient with it.
Yeah, like you said, patience. I think that's the word of the day today.
Well, maybe Josh can write back in and say which committee, which day it is, what time it is, et cetera, et cetera. If you could do that, Josh.
Let's see. Keen says, yes, my dad was an assistant deputy sheriff, wonderful man. And then I see the other side of that. It's terrible. My dad would be rolling in his grave. God bless us all. Yeah, that was going back to what Kevin was talking about a little while ago.
Thank you.
We're not condemning all sheriff's deputies or all law enforcement. We're just calling out specific actions that lead to the trampling of our rights, or in this case, death of an innocent citizen. Has nothing to do with calling out all law enforcement. Yeah. I think that's about it for tonight, y'all.
Well, we should probably give Miss Best a round of applause for putting another kick in our ass when we think we're so tired. We're so beat. We finally get something in. We get all of those 7 months and we hand that in. Thank you for kicking me right where it counts so I can get back up again and go at it again.
That's all right. It's just
good motivator.
It's just a step, you guys. Just a step.
Yeah. Bart, I think you're probably better at that than us, because you've been fighting this these fights for a while now. So yeah, there does come a point. I mean, just like being part of the Libertarian Party, I get fatigue just working like Libertarian,
especially because we're not effective.
Yeah. So like you're gonna get tired. It's gonna feel like it's taking forever, but just keep pushing and you can make some change.
It's a marathon, man.
It's a marathon. Yeah. Heck yeah. Well, y'all, that's going to do it for this week. Go check out peacefulc.network. You can go donate to the cause. Go do all these things that we talked about in this episode. We'll post each one of those slides individually on Facebook and X. Are those the only two? Yeah, I guess those are the only two like written form social media that we have. I'll post them on Peaceful C Productions Instagram page as well. So go check that out as well. So thank y'all for tuning in. Really appreciate it. And the next episode will come out, I'm hoping by the end of February. you know, I say this and then it's like,
Well, we've got
3
some
weeks
other,
after
we got
that.
some other things that were just been popping up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping by the end of February, we'll have another episode, and Pam will appear in the next and upcoming episode.
All right.
Spent some time with her today, so be looking forward to that. And yeah, thank y'all for tuning in. Keep tuning in. We'll see you next time.